Hi everyone, it's Anne Sinclair from Digestive Detective. Today I am talking to you about inflammation. I've just done this video, so I'm doing it again because it dropped out right at the end and lost the back end of it. So inflammation is a healthy thing for our body. It's a natural process for us. It's a natural response as well, and it can be a warning signal that something's not happening right, that there's tissue damage and white blood cells are rushing to the area. Normally there can be things associated with that, so pain, heat, swelling, redness, all those sorts of things. So acute inflammation would be if you got a hit in the leg, you know, you'd have some pain, you'd have some inflammation, you'd probably have a bit of swelling. So many things can cause inflammation in our body, especially food we eat and how we process that food. And we probably shouldn't squelch that inflammation. We should probably try and work out what's happening and why we have that inflammation to start with. Inflammatory conditions can create a lot of free radicals in our body, and this can go on to give us pain when we have inflammation as well. So some things we can do to decrease the amount of inflammation that we have in our body, and there's several things. So look at the foods that could be triggering your body. Some people struggle with eggs, meats, dairy products I see a lot, gluten I see a lot. And then more into things like tomatoes and eggplants and those sorts of things. So things to look at. Anti-inflammatory diet is fantastic. So no processed foods, because they do cause inflammation just because of the stuff that's put in it, like emulsifiers and shelf stabilizers and all those sorts of things. They can cause inflammation in our body. Be mindful of the meat that you buy and where you get it from. So all food lot meat are really high in omega-6. They're pro-inflammatory food. So if you're buying meat from a supermarket, be mindful that they are factory farm animals and they're fed corn and grains and those sorts of things. And when you eat that, that's going to be put into your body. And in our society, we're supposed to have an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of 1 to 1. Well, it's about a 10 to a 1 in favor of omega-6, which is really, really inflammatory. So we don't want to go there if we can help it. So if you can buy organic meat or free-range meat, that's a lot better for you. So look at a plant-based diet that's high in fruit and veg. And I know I say this over and over, but these are things that have been examined over and over to show us that they can lower inflammation and they can help with our bowel and they can, you know, improve the quality of our skin and all these other things because of the phytochemicals. So if organic, if you can afford it, and if you can't, look at the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 from the I think it's the EWG working group, and work out what you can afford to buy organic, because some things are much better eaten organic than not. For example, potatoes, because they're really highly sprayed. Olives are great. Sulfur-based vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli, all those sorts of things, cabbage, because they open your sulfation pathway and they help get toxins that would keep recirculating if given the opportunity. And the toxins that we have can go on to cause issues if they're not eliminated properly. And a lot of people do have problems with their sulfation pathways and their detox pathways to get those things out of their body. Fruits that contain lycopene, so strawberries, pomegranates, watermelons, tomatoes, those sorts of things can be useful for a lot of people. Nuts. Now, nuts fits into both camps. So nuts, only if you're not sensitive to them. And I wouldn't have a lot. That's my caveat on that. Berries, so berries 1 to 2 cups a day. You know, they're a great fruit. They're low sugar. They're high antioxidants. They're very anti-inflammatory. And all the phytonutrients can go on to do lots of healing for you. Oats, which is really great. And oats in Australia tend to be, and I say gluten-free oats, so you can buy gluten-free oats from a health food shop. But most oats in Australia are gluten-free, but they tend to sometimes be processed in the same place that has gluten, on the same machinery generally. So that's why most oats in Australia aren't sold as gluten-free, and that's the reason. So if you want gluten-free oats, buy them from a health food shop. The other thing that you can do is fish, oily fish, so salmon, tuna, and I wouldn't go heavy on the tuna because it's a big fish, so it has lots of mercury in it. Sardines, mackerel, all the little oily fishes are good. So they really help lower the inflammation in your body. And if your gut's up to it, I would say to you, and you'll know this if you can eat them or not, onion, ginger, garlic are really powerful anti-inflammatories, and they do a great deal of good for your body. So if you can have them, do that. Supplements would be useful as well. You know, not my first go-to with some of these things, but most Australians aren't getting the recommended fruit and vegetables that we're supposed to have. So look at food first. That will give you the biggest bang for your buck, and then head to the supplements after that. Food is easy. You know, food is much easier to me than having a supplement, because you're eating with your friends and your family and you're getting that connectedness. So food is always the first choice for me. Food rotation is also really important. So if you are eating the same thing, and I see this in clinic over and over, if you come every day and you're having the same thing for breakfast, lunch and dinner, you are going to have problems with inflammation. You are going to have problems with food allergies. You're going to end up with gut problems, because gut bacteria love diversity. So the more diversity you can give, the better it is. The more time that you spend changing up what you eat, the better it is for your gut and for you too. You know, life gets boring when you're just eating a mono diet. Some foods to avoid if you have inflammation, which most of us do, and it's probably you can have these once in a while, but I wouldn't have them on a daily basis. So sugar, and that's the biggie, and we know in processed food it's everywhere, so I'm not going to go on with that one too long. Nightshade family vegetables. If you watch my video, I think it was last week or the week before, I talked extensively about nightshade family vegetables and how they react to some people's bodies. So if you have any sort of arthritis or inflammatory conditions, nightshade vegetables may not be for you. And I know that that's tricky, because everybody loves a good tomato or an eggplant or chili. They're the ones that I get the most complaints about. But, you know, sometimes if you want to feel better, you need to take some things out, and that's the best way. Grains and legumes. Grains probably problematic for a lot of people. If you want to eat grains, that's okay. I have no problem with that, but you need to soak them overnight in some acidulated water and then use them the next day. And legumes too are problematic for people. And not for everybody, I see, but they're really great for gut bacteria. So again, I encourage people to soak their own and not necessarily use the tin ones, because most tin ones aren't soaked before they're put in the tin, and they can cause people grief. Whereas if you soak your own, you know exactly what's happening to them. You know they've been soaked for a period of time where they're not going to cause you any problem. You're going to be able to go on and eat them without any issues. Dairy products. Dairy products are inflammatory for most people. You know, they're mucus forming. They're just not great foods for most people. And I see some people eat them with no problem, and all power to them. But a lot of people I see, they tend to give them mucus or can sprout up eczema or things like that. And that can be just getting your gut right and then moving them back in slowly. But again, it's not one I would eat every day, especially not ice cream. And if you saw, if you head over to the blog, I've just published a post about emulsifiers and mostly what they're like in ice cream. And, you know, they are doing us a great disservice, so they can keep them on the shelves for longer, and so the products don't go moldy and stuff like that. They're really damaging our gut bacteria and things like that. So it's best if you cannot have those all the time. Fantastic. And the last one I've got is nuts again. So nuts is on both lists, which is nuts. And these are particularly difficult for some people to break down, because most people don't chew properly. So if you want to have nuts, you need to chew them. And the other thing is they also have phytates and lignans. So the best way is to soak them overnight in acidulated water and dry them in your dehydrator or in the oven and then eat them. But really make sure you chew them, because that will give you the best bang for your buck if you're going to eat nuts. So that's it for inflammation. We all have it. There are things you can do to not let it get out of control though. So take on those steps, and I'll see you next week for next Thursday's tip. Have a good week.